collection of pizza boxes. What's up, y'all? What's up? What's up? You're saying, why do I have all those pizza boxes? I have to recycle them. I'm lazy. That's why. It's a big ordeal, like trash. Like that's ever gonna happen. She's gonna smell like pizza because you're gonna be the pizza delivery woman. Ava always gets impressed with my pizza boxes when I show them. It attracts the females, you see. They're like, pizza, what the fuck? Then they go to Trump's room. Can we get some likes for your boy? Give your boy some likes if you're liking the Harry Potter coverage. Like tradition, I will smoke first. Prepare my body. Y'all can see Morbius without me. I'm just so handicapped being down here, so it's like you guys do what you gotta do. I understand. But like over the summer, like we're gonna be going to movies all the time, so don't worry about it. Hopefully there's a lot of good movies out this summer, so we'll have a lot of movies to go to. Like the movies are coming back because like all the movies that are supposed to be out during COVID got delayed, you know? It's not like all like the movies are coming out now, so it's kind of like pretty exciting. Pretty exciting times that the movies are back. Pretty exciting. Can't wait for Top Gun. Can't wait for Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show. Is there any Star Wars movies planned right now? God only knows what the fuck is up with. Oh, Jurassic World is this summer. Let's go. Let's go. I forgot. You know, like I'm like, no, I'm not really. To be honest, like obviously I'm not like excited for it because the last one was garbage, but I'm down for some dinos. I'm always down for some dino action. But like I just wish that like I was like if Jurassic World one, if the first one was like as good as the first Jurassic Park, I'd been like, oh, and then Fallen Kingdom. Was that the what was the last one? Was that Fallen Kingdom? Or was that the second one? What was the second one called? Jurassic Park Lost World, I believe. Right? Right, Shredded? Right, the last one was Fallen Kingdom. Yeah, okay. Fallen Kingdom was garbage, dude. I hate that movie sucked. And even in the theater, I'm like, why am I bored right now? Because I'm like the stuff on screen is kind of like is like interesting, you know? Like on paper, it would be interesting. But when I just watch it, I'm just like, this is like garbage. Like I remember like the scene from the trailer where that Velociraptor like had like his claw out at a crazy looking thing, and it was like about to like jump scare like this little girl. That was kind of stupid, but like I'm kind of like here for that. Like that was pretty sick. And then like then like it came, and I was like, bro, like can this movie just be over already? Like this is so cringe. Yeah, it was just so like it was so studio like higher ups, like just what like you think that they want people want to see, but like nobody gives a fuck. Like nobody. I remember my grandparents liking it. I went with them. And I was like, I came out and I wanted to be like that movie was so bad. Like I can't believe I like Jurassic Park like fumbled the bag like so hard. But they're all like that was pretty cool or whatever. And like I liked it. Like yeah, it was a good movie. It was a good time. Like they were like in a good mood. I didn't want to like say anything. Yeah, dude, the second half is god awful. The beginning was kind of like okay, it's kind of interesting because it's like okay, it's post Jurassic World. This is just like Jurassic Park, but like modern day. And it's like okay, like what would the fallout actually be of that? And then it was like really nothing interesting. I think you just have terrible taste. Maybe I am the problem. Watching too much Star Trek. Bruh. I saw today that y'all don't really probably care, but like for Picard season 3, like the entire original TNG cast is coming back. And I'm like, yo, like even like y'all know how dead Star Trek is to me. But even like it's so weird because like describing it, like whenever like I think about it, I can kind of feel like a little bit of excitement, like really deep down, like in my soul, like wanting to be excited for it, you know? Cause like, cause dude, like if just things were different, like if the world just wasn't, if we didn't live in the bad timeline, you know, like if we didn't live in like a dystopian like future, and like Star Trek was like as good as it was like back in the day, you know, and like and this shit came out now and got announced and it was like TNG, like the original cast is coming back for like for making a show called Picard. I'd be like, let's go, dude. I would literally be crying, like dead ass. I might cry, like hearing that announcement. But like Star Trek's so dead though that I told you this, shit. Like there's like the new show coming out is like stars Captain Pike, a young Captain Pike, on the Enterprise, like with Spock, like that we like heard about like in the original series and like even saw in like two episodes, the Menagerie Part 1 and 2. And like we like, dude, and like Uhura's coming back, and like Nurse Chapel, like there's a younger Nurse Chapel, a younger Uhura. Dude, I would be, dude. My brain would should have been melting at that, not at like at watching the trailer. I should be so excited for Strange New Worlds that like I can't even like explain it. It should make me the most excited for anything, any franchise, new product ever. Literally. And here, Star Trek is so dead that I don't give a shit. That whenever I saw the trailer first in my feed, I just kept scrolling. I don't even care to watch the fucking trailer or or like the 30-second teaser. Like that's how bad. Like that's when you know. Like if I wish like a star like an executive from Paramount was in the stream right now. I'd be like, yeah, like you just that's when you know you fucked up. Whenever somebody that loves your shit, that loves Star Trek, I'll watch Star Trek 5. I'll watch Star Trek 5 The Final Frontier any day of the week. Literally anybody, I'm begging you, ask me to watch Star Trek 5. Any Star Trek I'll watch. Literally any like come on. And you can't give me like excited over like for Captain Pike on the Enterprise with Spock. Like what? I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know I'm ranting about Star Trek, but like I was just thinking about this earlier today, and I was just like, why? Why? Like I saw a TNG announcement, bro, and I was like, oh my god! Like it showed like the lineup. It showed like I didn't say that, but I was like, damn, like I should be feeling this, but like, I just like wasn't. Like obviously I wasn't, but it was like Patrick Stewart, Brent Spiner, fucking uh Jonathan Frakes, fucking I can name all the actors, but I'm high right now. Who played Deanna Troy? It was who did play Deanna Troy? Marina Sirtis. Yeah. Who played Geordi? It was LeVar Burton. Who played Dr. Crusher? That was Gates McFadden. Yeah, so I had like all their names. And I was just like, oh, like, dude. Like, what a missed opportunity. Like, this is gonna. Or I can just speak of it as if it's in past tense because it's already like 100% confirmed that like what it's gonna be. It's gonna be just the same shit, the same Batwoman garbage. You know, it's like oh like to be honest for once, like with Batwoman like season 4, it's like I'm not like obviously I know Batwoman season 4 is gonna be just as terrible as the last season because the same people are making it. You know what I mean? So it's like the same people are making Star Trek. So it's like yeah, it's probably gonna be the same terrible garbage nonsense bullshit. Like just terrible. Like just terrible entertainment. Like really not even like to be it's not even meant to be watched really. Because we were watching Batwoman and we're like, let's look at this like logically. Like what like who's watching this, you know? And 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 I hear like other people online talking about Batwoman and like speculating that like all these different things but like overall like it's just not like meant to make money. Like they're not out with the intent of like trying to make money, I guess. Because I'm like, what? Because nobody's watching it. Like nobody's watching Star Trek. You know what I mean? Like nobody's watching Batwoman. Nobody's watching Star Trek. So you're obviously not in this for the money. You know, and it's not like me like sitting on my mountain saying this. Like people have looked at like the ratings and like like the figures actually. Yeah, that's just so embarrassing. But like the premiere, so like okay, Star Trek Discovery was always on like Paramount Plus or whatever. So they're like, let's air it on CBS, like prime time, and see how it does or whatever. and people were excited because they're like, "Oh, now we can see the ratings that this bitch gets." Reruns of The Masked Singer, or whatever the fuck it's called, beat the premiere of a brand new Star Trek television show. If you said that back in like 2005, like whenever like Star Trek was still like like in the form of television. See, I keep forgetting that I don't even count it. I don't even count it as television. I'm done talking about Star Trek. I'm done talking about Star Trek. It's just so like right. It's because movies and television today, it's not about art. It's about content. You know, like streaming services always just say, "Oh, content this, content that." It's like, yeah, because it's not supposed to be like art, aka like smart or like introspective or like have any rewatchability at all. You know what I mean? It's just content. Like, just get content out. Like, get more shit on the service. Like, get people watching more shit. You know. Such a downer. But let's go back to a time when Ethan was a boy, and movies were good. Actually, yeah, movies overall were pretty good. It was the late 2000s. 2009, 10, 11. What movies were out then, guys? Like Avatar? That was like 2012, I think. Did Avatar was huge when it dropped. I remember, bro. I remember that shit being everywhere. Right. We're never gonna get another Alvin and the Chipmunks quality movie. I mean, we just did with the Batman. And like, I don't want to jinx it, but like, there's like rumors, like online, like in like the medium, that like a shift is coming. That like, there's gonna be like a bunch of like actually like a really like good movies coming, and like studios are like the executives that have been there for like that have been just fucking everything up like are like leaving, because like with the was it fuck who's merging? Discovery is merging with like Times Warner or something, or Paramount, I believe. I don't know, something like that. But like, yeah, it's like there's like a lot of turn in the industry right now, and it's like, dude, after seeing the Batman, I'm like, okay, like movies still have it. Like I was getting kind of like scared there. It's been a long time since I like saw a movie that was actually like good. You know what I mean? But like even better, like movies that I'm like, okay, like they're like all time like great, that I feel like just gonna be like all time like an all time like fantastic like beloved movie, you know? And with the Batman, I was like, let's go. Like that's a movie right there. Like that's gonna be like a staple for me. You know what I mean? Like how it's like how like Lord of the Rings is like timeless. Like all these like movies that like I call like perfect movies. Like Ghostbusters, like that shit. Like there's movies that are gonna be timeless and like well, not like timeless because like they kind of were like Batman was like FaceTime, FaceTime Riddler and like texting Catwoman. So like there kind of was, and it like obviously there's like some like slur. But I'm just like, okay, well that was a great movie. I fucking love Batman. But let me hit this. I love ranting to the camera. This is breaking news. Do you guys hear about the Ezra Miller news? I mean, nobody cares, but like pop culture news update. Ezra Miller, who was playing the Flash, they apparently Warner Brothers has halted all projects with him. So I thought that they finished filming the Batman though, or the new Batman movie, or the Flash movie, because everybody knows it as like the movie that like Keaton's gonna come back and play Batman. That's like all I give a fuck about it. That's crazy. I'm reading the shit right now. Because he was in Fantastic Beasts too. So, dude, well, if they replace him too as along with Johnny Depp in the next one, so I'd be like, you canceled 2 of your actors and had to replace them. Like welcome to the 21st century. It's gonna say welcome to 2022, but you just like count the century as like the worst one. So we're only 22 years into it. Yeah, what year is it? Okay, I guess I'll just begin. I love this book. I was reading it and I started laughing. I love it so much. Okay, here we go. Who forgot where we were? Nobody? Okay, good. We were just got off the boat at Hogwarts. We're just walking inside. Can I get some Hagrids in the chat for the chapter? Some Hagrids. I'll give my own Hagrid. Okay. My Hagrids. Give me some Hagrids, my Hagrids. Okay. Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Chapter 7. The Sorting Hat. The door swung open at once. A tall, black-haired witch in emerald green robes stood there. She had a very stern face, and Harry's first thought was that this was someone not to cross. The first year's Professor McGonagall, said Hagrid. Thank you, Hagrid. I'll take them from here. She pulled the door wide. The entrance hall was so big you could have fitted the whole of the Dursleys' house in it. The stone walls were lit with flaming torches like the ones at Gringotts. The ceiling was too high to make out, and a magnificent marble staircase facing them led to the upper floors. They followed Professor McGonagall across the flagstone floor. Harry could hear the drone of hundreds of voices from the doorway to their right. The rest of the school must already be here. But Professor McGonagall showed the first years into a small empty chamber off the hall. They crowded in, staying rather closer together than they would usually have done, peering about nervously. Welcome to Hogwarts, said Professor McGonagall. The state of term banquet will begin shortly. But before you take your seats in the Great Hall, you will be sorted into your houses. The sorting is a very important ceremony because, while you are here, your house will be something like your family within Hogwarts. You will have classes with the rest of your house, sleep in your house dormitory, and spend free time in your house common room. The four houses are called Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, and Slytherin. Each house has its own noble history, and each has produced outstanding witches and wizards. While you're at Hogwarts, your triumphs will earn you house points, while any rule breaking will lose house points. At the end of the year, the house with the most points will be awarded the House Cup, a great honor. I hope each of you will be credited to whichever house becomes yours. The sorting ceremony will take place in a few minutes in front of the rest of the school. I suggest you all smarten yourselves up as much as you can while you're waiting. Her eyes linger for a moment on Neville's cloak, which was fastened on his left ear, and on Ron's smudged nose. Harry nervously tried to flatten his hair. I shall return when we are ready for you, said Professor McGonagall. Please wait quietly. She left the chamber. Harry swallowed. How exactly do they sort us into houses? Asked Ron. Some sort of test, I think. Fred said it hurts a lot, but I think he was joking. Harry's heart gave a horrible jolt. A test? In front of the whole school? But he didn't know any magic yet. What on earth would he have to do? He hadn't expected something like this the moment they arrived. He looked around anxiously and saw that everyone else looked terrified too. No one was talking much except for Hermione Granger, who was whispering very fast about all the spells she had learned and wondering which ones she'd need. Harry tried hard not to listen to her. He'd never been more nervous, never, not even when he had to make a school report home. He had to take a school report home to the Dursleys saying that he somehow turned his teacher's wig blue. Wow. He kept his eyes fixed on the door. Any second now, Professor McGonagall will come back and lead him to his dorm. Then something happened which made him jump about a foot in the air. Several people behind him screamed. What the? He gasped. So the people around him. About 20 ghosts had just streamed through the black wall. Pearly white and slightly transparent, they glided across the room, talking to each other and hardly glancing at the first years. They seemed to be arguing. What looked like a fat little monk was saying, Forgive and forget, I say. Ought to give him a second chance. My dear Friar, haven't we given Peeves all the chance he deserves? He gives us all a bad name, you know. He's not really even a ghost. I say, what are you all doing here? A ghost wearing a ruffed and tights suddenly noticed the first years. Nobody answered. New students, said the fat friar, smiling around at them. About to be sorted, I suppose. A few people nodded mutely. I hope to see you in Hufflepuff, said the friar. My old house, you know. Move along now, said a sharp voice. The sorting ceremony is about to start. Professor McGonagall had entered. One by one, the ghosts floated away through the opposite wall. Can I have all your attention? These are the ghosts that are chasing the kids around, talking to the kids. This place is haunted. Need the Ghostbusters in this bitch. Now, form a line, Professor McGonagall told the first years, and follow me. Feeling oddly as though his legs had turned to lead, Harry got into line behind a boy with sandy hair, with Ron behind him, and they walked out of the chamber, back across the hall and through a pair of double doors into the great hall. Harry had never even imagined such a strange and splendid place. It was lit by thousands and thousands of candles which were floating in midair over 4 long tables, where the rest of the students were sitting. These tables were laid with glittering golden plates and goblets. At the top of the hall were another long table where the teachers were sitting. Professor McGonagall led the first years up here, so that they came to a halt in a line facing their students, with the teachers behind them. The students, the hundreds of faces stared at them, looking like pale lanterns in the flickering candlelight. And dotted here and there among the students, the ghosts shone misty silver. Mainly to avoid all the staring eyes, Harry looked upwards and saw a velvety black ceiling dotted with stars. He heard Hermione whisper, It's bewitched to look like the sky outside. I read about it in Hogwarts outside. It's bewitched to look like the sky outside. I read about it in Hogwarts history. So over the table is supposed to see like the night sky above them. Like you don't see a ceiling, you see like the night sky. I don't think we've met nearly Headless Nick yet. There were some other ghosts, I believe, but I could be wrong. I was hard to believe that there was a ceiling there at all, and that the great hall didn't simply open up to the heavens. Harry quickly looked down again, and Professor McGonagall silently placed a four-legged stool in front of the four seers. On top of the stool, she put a pointed wizard's hat. This hat was patched and frayed and extremely dirty. Aunt Petunia wouldn't have let it in the house. Maybe they had to try and get a rabbit out of it, Harry thought wildly. That seemed the sort of thing. Noticing that everyone in the hall was now staring at the hat, he stared at it too. For a few seconds, there was complete silence. Then the hat twitched. A rip near the brim opened wide like a mouth, and the hat began to sing. Oh, you may think now I'm pretty, but don't judge on what you see. I'll eat you myself if you can't find a smarter hat than me. You can keep your bowels black, your top hat sleek and tall, for I'm the Hogwarts sorting hat, and I can cap them all. There's nothing hidden in your head the sorting hat can't see, so try me on and I'll tell you where you ought to be. You might belong to Gryffindor, where dwell the brave at heart. Their daring, nerve, and chivalry set Gryffindors apart. You might belong in Hufflepuff, where they are just where they are just and loyal. Those patient Hufflepuffs are true and afraid of toil. Or get a wise old Ravenclaw if you've already mind, where those of wit and learning will always find their kind. Or perhaps in Slytherin you'll make your real friends. Those cunning folk use any means to achieve their ends. So put me on, don't be afraid. I don't get it in flap. You're in safe hands, though I have none. For I am a thinking cap. The whole hall burst in applause as the hat finished his song. It bowed to each of the four tables and then began to and became quite still again. Can I get some Hagrid's in the chat for the sorting hat song? Hagrid's in the chat. Hagrid's in the chat. Hagrid. That sorting hat song was lit. So we've just got to try on the hat, Ron whispered to Harry. I'll kill Fred. He's going on about wrestling a troll. Harry smiled weakly. Yes, trying on the hat was a lot better than having to do a spell, but he did wish that he could have tried it on without everyone watching. That seemed to be asking rather a lot. Harry didn't feel brave or quick-witted or any of it at the moment. If only the hat had mentioned a house for people who felt a bit queasy, that would have been the one for him. Professor McGonagall now stepped forward, holding a long roll of parchment. When I call your name, you will be put on the hat and sit on the stool to be sorted, she said. Abbott, Hannah. A pink-faced girl with blonde pigtails stumbled out of the line, put on the hat, which fell right over her eyes, and sat down. A moment's pause. Hufflepuff, shouted the hat. The table on the right cheered and clapped its hand and went down and sat at the Hufflepuff table. Harry saw the ghost of the fat friar waving merrily at her. Bones, Susan. Hufflepuff, shouted the hat again, and Susan sculled off to sit next to Hannah. Boot Terry. Ravenclaw. The table second from the left clapped. Sarah Ravenclaw stood up to shake hands with Terry as he joined them. Brocklehurst Maddie went to Ravenclaw too, but Brown Lavender became the first new Gryffindor, and the table on the far left exploded with cheers. Dude, I'm gonna go Gryffindor. You got brought up on my ass of Gryffindor. Harry could see Ron's twin brothers catcalling. Catcalling a 11-year-old, bro. Bulstrode Millicent then became a Slytherin. Perhaps it was Harry's imagination. After all, he heard about Slytherin, but he thought they looked an unpleasant lot. Yeah. He's starting to feel definitely sick now. He remembered being picked for teams during sports lesson at his old school. He'd always been last to be chosen, not because he was not good, but because no one wanted Dudley to think they liked him. Finch Fletchley, Justin. Hufflepuff. Hella Hufflepuffs, bro. Sometimes, Harry noticed, the hat shot at the house at once, but others it took a while to decide. Finnegan Seamus. The shiny-haired boy next to Harry in the line sat on the stool for almost a whole minute before the hat declared him a Gryffindor. Wow. So the hat is like taking his time for some of these to like decide like, where he's gonna like how he judges your destiny. A horrible thought struck Harry, as horrible thoughts always do when you're very nervous. What if he wasn't chosen at all? What if he just sat there with the hat over his eyes for ages until Professor McGonagall jerked it off his head, said there had obviously been a mistake, and he better get back on the train? Harry, my boy. Harry has no self-esteem. But meanwhile, like everybody is saying he's like destined to be like the best thing in the world, but like he shows like such great humility. When Neville Longbottom, the boy who kept losing his toad, was called, he fell over on his way to the stool. The hat took a long time to decide with Neville. When finally he shouted Gryffindor, Neville ran off still wearing it, and to jog back amid gales of laughter to give it to McDougal Morag. Malfoy swaggered forward. What? Malfoy swaggered forward when his name was called, and got his wish at once. The hat had barely touched his head when it screamed, Slytherin! Malfoy went to join his friends Crabbe and Goyle. Crabbe? I don't know. And Goyle. Chad told me last time, but I forgot. Looking pleased with himself. There weren't many people left now. Moon, Knott, Packinson, then a pair of twin girls, Paddle and Paddle, then Perks, Sally Ann, and then, at last, Potter, Harry! As Harry stepped forward, whispers suddenly broke out like hissing fires all over the hall. Potter, did she say? The Harry Potter? The last thing Harry saw before the hat dropped over his eyes was the hall full of people crying to get a good look at him. Next second, he was looking at the back of the hat. He waited. The Sorting Hat. It's important to remember that like Harry is like a chosen he's like a prodigal son character. Like he's like literally like he's like a legend. Like he's like born like to be like, and he like fulfills like a crazy like destiny, and like he has crazy adventures like along the way. So like this is like a big point in like his like the entire story, like to see like where he goes, like how his destiny could have like changed if he was in a different house. Said a small voice in his ear. Difficult. Very difficult. Plenty of courage, I see. Not a bad mind, either. There's talent. Oh my goodness, yes. And a nice thirst to prove yourself. Now that's interesting. So where shall I put you? Harry gripped the edges of the stool and thought, not Slytherin, not Slytherin. Not Slytherin, eh? Said the small voice. Are you sure? You could be great, you know. It's all here in your head. And the Slytherin will help you on the way to greatness. No doubt about that. No? Well, if you're sure. Better be Gryffindor. Harry heard the hat shout the last word to the whole hall. He took off the hat and walked shakily towards the Gryffindor table. He was so relieved to have been chosen and not put in Slytherin. He hardly noticed that he was getting the loudest cheer yet. Percy the prefect got up and shook his hand vigorously, while the Weasley twins yelled, We got Potter! We got Potter! Dude, that's epic. Harry sat down opposite the ghost in the rough he'd seen earlier. The ghost patted his arm, giving Harry the sudden horrible feeling he just plunged into a bucket of ice cold water. Damn. That's what it feels like to have a ghost pass through you. You could see the high table properly now, and nearest him sat Hagrid, who caught his eye and gave him the thumbs up. Harry grinned back. And there, in the center of the high table, in a large gold chair, sat Albus Dumbledore. Harry recognized him at once from the card he got of the chocolate frog on the train. Dumbledore's silver hair was the one thing in the whole hall that shone as brightly as the ghosts. Harry spied Professor Quirrell, too, the nervous young man at the leaky cauldron. He was looking very peculiar in a large purple turban. And now there was only 3 people left to be sorted. Turpin Lisa became a Ravenclaw, and then it was Ron's turn. He was pale green by now. Harry crossed his fingers under the table, and a second later the hat had shouted, Gryffindor! Harry clapped loudly with the rest as Ron collapsed in the chair next to him. Well done, Ron. Excellent, said Percy. Had said Percy Weasley pompously across Harry as the beanie blouse was made of Slytherin. Professor McGonagall rolled up her scroll and took the sword and hand away. I'd be like, okay, I'd be like, if I was Gryffindor, I'd be like, we made out, guys. Like, we got like some good students here this year. Harry looked down at his empty gold plate. He only just realized how hungry he was. The pumpkin pasty seemed ages ago. Albus Dumbledore had got to his feet. He was beaming at the students, his arms open wide, as if nothing could have pleased him more than to see them all there. Dude. Not gonna lie, that line got me. That's a great Dumbledore line. Because it's true, like, Dumbledore is like... Bro. I love Dumbledore. Dumbledore's like the perfect teacher figure, like, he literally is. Welcome, he said. Welcome to a new year at Hogwarts. Before we begin our banquet, I'd like to say a few words. And here they are. Nitwit, blubber, ointment, tweak. Thank you. He sat back down. Everybody clapped and cheered. Harry didn't know whether to laugh or not. Is he a bit mad? He asked Percy uncertainly. Mad, said Percy airily. He's a genius, better wizard in the world. But he is a bit mad, yes. Potatoes, Harry? Harry's mouth fell open. The dishes in front of him were now piled with food. He'd never seen so many things he liked to eat on one table. Roast beef, roast chicken, pork chops and lamb chops, sausages, bacon and steak, boiled potatoes, roast potato chips, Yorkshire pudding, peas, carrots, gravy, ketchup, and for some reason, mint humbugs. The Dursleys had never exactly starved Harry, but he'd never been allowed to eat as much as he liked. Dudley had always taken anything that Harry really wanted, even if it made him really sick. Harry piled his plate with a bit of everything except the humbugs and began to eat. It was delicious. That does look good, said the ghost in the rough Sally, watching Harry cut up his steak. Can't you... I haven't eaten for nearly 500 years, said the ghost. I don't need to, of course, but one does miss it. I don't think I've introduced myself. Here he is, Sabo. Sir Nicholas Mimsy Perpington at your service. Sir Nicholas de Mimsy Perpington at your service. Resident ghost of Gryffindor Tower. I know who you are, said Ron solemnly. My brothers told me about you. You're nearly headless Nick. I would prefer you call me Sir Nicholas de Mimsy, the ghost began stiffly, but sandy-haired Seamus Finnegan interrupted. Nearly headless? How can it be nearly headless? Sir Nicholas looked extremely miffed, as if this little chat wasn't going at all the way he wanted. Like this, he said irritably. He seized his left ear and pulled. His whole head swung from his neck and fell down to his shoulders as if it was on a hinge. Someone had obviously tried to behead him, but not done it properly. Looking pleased at the son looked at their faces. Nearly headless Nick flipped his head back on his neck, coughed and said, So, new Gryffindors. I hope you're going to help us win the house championship this year. Gryffindor has never gone so long without winning. Slytherin has got the cup 6 years in a row. The bloody bear has become almost unbearable. He's the Slytherin ghost. Harry looked over the Slytherin table and saw a horrible ghost sitting there, with blank staring eyes, a gaunt face, and robes stained with silver blood. He was right next to Malfoy, who, Harry was pleased to see, didn't look too pleased with the seating arrangements. How do you get covered in blood? Asked Seamus with great interest. I never asked, said nearly headless Nick. While everyone had eaten as much as they could, their remains of the food faded from the plates, leaving the sparkling clean as before. A moment later, the puddings appeared. Blocks of ice cream in every flavor you could think of. Apple pies, treacle tarts, chocolate eclairs, and jam donuts. Trifles, strawberries, jelly, rice pudding. Damn. Making me hungry. As Harry helped himself to a treacle tart, the talk turned to their families. I'm half and half, said Seamus. My dad's a muggle. Mom didn't tell him she was a witch until they were married. Bit of a nasty shock for him. The others laughed. What about you, Neville? Said Ron. Well, my gran brought me up and she's a witch, said Neville. But the family thought I was all muggle for ages. My great uncle Algie kept trying to catch me off my guard and force some magic out of me. He pushed me off the end of Blackpool Pier once. I nearly drowned. But nothing happened until I was 8. Great Uncle Algie came around for tea and he was hanging me out from upstairs window by my ankles. When my great uncle Enid offered him a meringue and he accidentally let go. But I bounced all the way down the garden and into the road. They were all really pleased. Gran was crying, she was so happy. As you should have seen their faces when I got here, they thought I might not be magic enough to come, you see. Great Uncle Algie was so pleased she bought me a toad. On Harry's other side, Percy Weasley and Hermione were talking about lessons. I do hope they start straight away. There's so much to learn. I'm particularly interested in transfiguration, you know. Turning something into something else, of course. It's supposed to be very difficult. You'll be starting small, just matches and needles and that sort of thing. Harry, who was starting to feel warm and sleepy, looked up at the high table again. Hagrid was drinking deeply from his goblet. Professor McGonagall was talking to Professor Dumbledore. Professor Quirrell, in his absurd turban, was talking to a teacher with greasy black hair, a hooked nose, and sallow skin. Oh God, who's that? Snape. Severus Snape. It happened very suddenly. The hook-nosed teacher looked past Quirrell's turban straight into Harry's eyes, and a sharp, hot pain shot across the scar on Harry's forehead. Ouch! Harry clapped a hand to his head. What is it? Asked Percy. Nothing. The pain had gone as quickly as it had come. As quickly as it had come. Harder to shake off was the feeling Harry had got from the teacher's look. A feeling that he didn't like Harry at all. Yeah, like, dude, we're gonna hate. Like, you hate Snape. Like, no joke. Like, you fucking hate Snape. Like, in the books. Like, by the time you get to, like, the Half-Blood Prince, and he kills you-know-who, you're like, I fucking hate this guy. Like, because he's literally, like, malicious, like, to Harry. Like, he's, like, the worst instructor you could ever, like, literally the worst, like, person ever, like, to train, like, a little kid like this. Like, we hate Severus Snape. Who's the teacher talking to Professor Quirrell? He asked Percy. Oh, you know Quirrell already, do you? No wonder he's looking so nervous. That's Professor Snape. He teaches potions, but he doesn't want to. Everyone knows he's after Quirrell's job. Knows an awful lot about the dark arts, Snape. Harry watched Snape for a while, but Snape didn't look at him again. At last, the planes too disappeared, and Professor Dumbledore got to his seat again. The hall fell silent. Ahem, just a few more words now that we're all fed and watered. I have a few star-of-term notices to give you. First, you should know that the forest and the grounds is forbidden to all pupils, and a few of our old students who do well to remember that as well. Dumbledore's twinkling eyes flashed in the direction of the Weasley twins. I have also been asked by Professor Filch, the caretaker, to remind you all that no magic should be used between classes in the corridors. Yeah, right, dude. Who's gonna follow that rule? Nobody. I have quiz trials will be held in the second week of term. Anyone interested in playing for their house teams should contact Madam Hutch. And finally, I must tell you that this year, the third floor corridor and all the right hand side is out of bounds to everyone who does not wish to die a very painful death. Harry laughed, but he was one of the few who did. He's not serious, he went to hear Percy. Must be, said Percy, frowning at Dumbledore. It's odd because he usually gives us a reason why we're not allowed to go somewhere. The forest is full of dangerous beasts because he knows that. I do think he might have told us prefix at least. Okay, so Dumbledore says that the third floor corridor on the right-hand side is out of bounds to everyone who does not wish to die very much. Third floor corridor. Okay. Damn. Why would you, like, hide it somewhere, like, more private? I guess. I don't know. Dumbledore gave his wand. He says, now, before you go off to bed, let us sing the school song, cried Dumbledore. Harry noticed that the other teacher's smiles had become rather fixed. Dumbledore gave his wand a little flick as he was trying to get a fly off the end, and a long golden ribbon flew out of it, which rose high above the tables and twisted itself snake-like into words. That's a pretty interesting way to describe like a wand flick. Like he was trying to get a fly off the end of it. Because like that, And off we go, said Dumbledore. And the school bellowed. Everybody rise for the Hogwarts anthem. All rise. Hogwarts, Hogwarts, Hoggy-Warty Hogwarts. Teach us something, please, whether we are old and bald, or young with scabby knees. Our heads shall do with filling with some interesting stuff, for now they're bare and full of air, dead flies and a bit of fluff. So teach us things worth knowing, bring back what we forgot. Just do your best, we'll do the rest, and learn until our brains all rot. Okay. Thank you all for standing. You'll all better have been standing. Everybody finished the song at different times. At last, only the Weasley twins were left singing along to a very slow funeral march. Dumbledore conducted their last few lines with his wand, and when they had finished, he was one of those who clapped loudest. Ah, music, he said, wiping his eyes. A magic beyond all we do here. And now, bedtime. Off you trot. The Gryffindor's first years followed Percy through the chattering crowds, out of the Great Hall and up the marble staircase. Harry's legs were like lead again, but only because he was so tired and full of food. He was too sleepy even to be surprised that the people in the portraits along the corridors whispered and pointed as they passed, or that twice Percy led them through doorways hidden behind slime walls and hanging tapestries. They climbed up more staircases, yawning and dragging their feet, and Harry was just wondering how much farther they had to go when they came to a sudden halt. A bundle of walking sticks was floating in midair ahead of them, and as Percy took a step towards them, they started throwing themselves at him. Peeves, Percy whispered at the first years. A poltergeist. He raised his voice. Peeves, show yourself. A low, rude sound like the air being let out of a balloon answered. Like a fart sound, sticky. Do you want me to go get the bloody Baron? There's a pop and a little man with wicked dark eyes and a wide mouth appeared, floating cross-legged in the air, clutching the walking sticks. Ooh, he said with an evil crackle. Ickle firsties, what fun. He swooped suddenly at them. They all ducked. Go away, Peeves, or the Baron will hear about this. I mean it, barked Percy. Peeves stuck out his tongue and vanished, dropping the walking sticks on Neville's head. They heard him zooming away, rattling coats of armor as he passed. You want to watch out for Peeves, said Percy as they set off again. The Bloody Baron's the only one who can control him. You won't even listen to us prefects. Here we are. Last page. At the very end of the corridor hung a portrait of a very fat woman in a pink silk dress. Password, she said. Caput Draconis, said Percy, and the portrait swung forward to reveal a round hole in the wall. They all scrambled through it. Neville needed a leg up, and found themselves in the Gryffindor common room, a cozy, round room full of squishy armchairs. Percy directed the girls through one doorway, and the boys through another. At the top of a spiral staircase, they were obviously in one of the towers. They found their beds at last. 5 4-posters hung with deep red velvet curtains. Their trunks had already been brought up. Too tired to talk much, they pulled on their pajamas and went into bed. Great food, isn't it? Murmured Harry through the hangings. Get off, Scabbers. He's chewing my sheets. Harry was going to ask Ron if he had any of the Chico tart, but he fell asleep almost at once. Perhaps Harry had eaten a bit too much because he had a very strange dream. He was wearing Professor Quirrell's turban, which kept talking to him, telling him he must transfer to Slytherin at once because it was his destiny. Harry told the turban he didn't want to be in Slytherin. It got heavier and heavier. He tried to pull it off, but it tightened painfully. And there was Malfoy, laughing at him as he struggled with it. Then Malfoy turned into the hook-nosed teacher Snape, whose laugh became high and cold. Then with a burst of green light, Harry awoke, sweating and shaking. He rolled over and fell asleep again. And when he awoke next day, he didn't remember the dream at all. That's the end of chapter 7. How'd you guys like it? We got sorted into Gryffindor. Gryffindor, Gryffindor, Gryffindor. Next up, we meet Snape. Next we meet Snape in chapter 8, the Potions Master. One more. I'll do one more. If the crowd is demanding it. Dun, 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 dun. Okay. Okay. We love Hagrid. My little Hagrids. You guys want some Reese's Pieces? Want some Reese's Pieces, guys? Do I take another dab, guys? Give me some Hagrids in the chat. If I take another dab rip from my wax pen. Bro, Reese's Pieces are the best thing in the world. I am addicted to Reese's Pieces. Oh my god. Darth Jar Jar? Darth Jar Jar. Darth Jar Jar. Jar Jar. By the order of this. What does he say? I am destiny. Not yet. Not yet. Are you threatening me, Jedi? He four screams or whatever. Stabs one dude like instantly, and then swings around, lacerates the other dude, and then the Kit Fisto, and then Mace Windu for like 5 seconds, or like two. I ain't even. It was like 2 seconds. And then he took out Kit Fisty. That was crazy because Kit Fist was supposed to be pretty powerful. Like all those Jedi were supposed to be like pretty powerful, especially like with like all three of them there. But like he just took them out like he just got like a jump start on them. You know what I'm saying? He got like he had the thing of surprise, the whatever you call it. He had surprise on his side. Because like you gotta like think of it from this perspective that like these Jedi have been like speaking to like this old man, like this nice like cordial like old man like Senator Amidala, not Senator Amidala, but Senator Palpatine, like for years. Well, he was Chancellor now by this point. But like he was like always like talking like again like episode 2 like especially like he was always having meetings like with like the Jedi with all in the room with him. So they're like, what? And then he like does a force scream at them, and they're like, what the fuck? So like they were like physically affected by the force scream, physically and mentally affected like with this surprise like in their head of like, no way can this like dude that we've been like the Sith Lord the entire time. And then the force screams like, what? And he I just like literally flew at them and then stabbed one like instantly, and then like killed the other like immediately. So we got like 2 kills off the rip from that, just from the surprise and the yell. Yeah, apparently he was really proficient in like force like suppression or whatever. Or like you like suppress your like force. You know what I mean? Like your force aura. But that's why he was but he was secretly like retroactively by doing that, he was like filtering out like the dark side like all throughout like the Jedi Temple. Or not just like the Jedi Temple, but like just like throughout like because Yoda like Yoda's always like clouded it like the Jedi always talking about like how they can't like see into the force. like how they could have like before like the Clone Wars, you know? Yeah. So yeah. So like he was like suppressing like his force abilities. I mean his force power obviously. But like he was like influencing like the dark side throughout like the Jedi. That's like really important to like remember that. Not many people like remember. Cause I used to like think that like going off just like episode 3. This is okay. This is kind of like a sidebar into Star Wars for a second. But you always think like Anakin's turn to the dark side is like either like unfounded or like really like rushed. And you're like, how could the Jedi not have seen this shit? Like, how could not have seen Palpatine? You know, well, there's like a lot of like layers. It's like an onion, an ogre. You see, there's many layers. Cause like Palpatine was doing that, and he was like, yeah, it's like the Jedi couldn't like look into the Force to see like who the fuck was influencing everything. So yeah, like he was like contaminating them with the dark side by like being so close to him. But that's like how powerful he was. And like just him like being like around like the Jedi so often, like there's like what the fuck, like we can't see in the Force, bro. Yeah, because Darth Sidious, aka Palpatine, was like the Sith, like the prophesized Sith to be like the strongest, like not like Anakin was. That's what Anakin was like. Was the prophesized like the strongest like Jedi, like the strongest like Force user. But Sidious was like the culmination of like the Sith grand plan, which took over like thousands of years to like situate a Sith to a point, like to have like perfect training and like just like the perfect Sith, and then like to establish him in like the government, like underneath the Jedi and shit, and then to implement like then to kill him somehow, I guess. Like and like the thing is like, dude, I love episode 3 because like one is obviously is like a tragedy and so sad because the good guys lose, but like watching the bad guys win is also like really satisfying too. Cause it's like like Palpatine is like, yes, like I have everything like me my master wanted. Like my old master, like if you can only see me now, like all these Sith in the past, I'm the Sith Supreme. Like I've won. Like at the end of episode 3, I mean like has Anakin. He's like, I've won. He's like about to like have an orgasm like on screen. Like literally, like we watched that scene. Like whenever like Anakin gets on his knees, like pledges himself to him. He's like, good on and he's like, oh my god, he's like reveling and like I have like you're so powerful and you're all mine. Like I have through you, like I have fulfilled, like I'll fulfill like everything. Like oh, I love Palpatine. I love Sidious. Whenever he fought in Clone Wars was like the best fight because he's just clowning them, like not even like trying. Darth Maul and his brother at the same time, and wasn't even trying, and just like laughing like maniacally, like just enjoying the fight because like he never gets to fight. He's just so powerful. I love Palpatine. Palpatine solos, but well, I don't know about that. Prime Annie. I don't think so. I think Sidious would have killed Prime Anakin. To be honest, because but like holy fuck, it'd be a fight. Like, don't get me wrong. But like me and people are aware of this, but like Anakin was never able to achieve like his full potential because of like what happened to him with Darth Vader, like losing all of his limbs and shit. So like Anakin was like George Lucas said like on the record that he was supposed to be like 200 times powerful than like than Darth Sidious or some crazy shit. Like he'd be like way stronger than Sidious. Like if he didn't get like fucked up by Obi-Wan and he's able to like reach his full potential, like have that experience, have that like strength, like inherently like have that like perfection that he already pretty much has. Like Prime Anakin is already like top 5 strongest Star Wars characters in canon easily. Top 3 probably. But it's like just imagine. Like he would truly been like the chosen one that like he was supposed to be. But the Force works in mysterious ways. The Force works in mysterious ways. So let me rip this finally. Are you guys enjoying my Star Wars rants? Is anybody here? Uh, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone. Chapter 8. The Potions Master. There, look. Where? Next to the tall kid with the red hair. Wearing the glasses? Do you see his face? Do you see his scar? Whispers followed Harry from the moment he left his dormitory next day. People queuing outside classrooms stood on tiptoe to get a look at him, or doubled back to pass him in the corridors again, staring. Harry wished they wouldn't, because he was trying to concentrate on finding his way to classes. There were 142 staircases at Hogwarts, wide, sweeping ones, narrow, rickety ones, some that led somewhere different on Fridays, some with a vanishing step halfway up that you had to remember to jump. But there were doors that wouldn't open unless you asked politely, or tickled them in exactly the right place, and doors that weren't really doors at all, but saw walls just pretending. It was also very hard to remember where anything was because it all seemed to move around a lot. The people in the portraits kept going to visit each other, and Harry was sure the coats of armor could talk. The ghost didn't help either. It was always a nasty shock when one of them glided suddenly through a door you were trying to open. Nearly headless Nick was always happy to point new Gryffindors in the right direction, but Peeves the Poltergeist was worth 200 locked doors and a trick staircase if you meant when you were late for class. He would drop waste paper baskets on your head, pull rugs from under your feet, put you with bits of chalk or sneak up behind you, invisible, grab your nose and screech, "Get your conch!" Or "Got your conch!" Like a nose, got your nose. Even worse than Peeves, it was this if that was possible, was the only thing worse than Peeves was the caretaker, Argus Filch. Harry and Ron managed to get on the wrong side of him on their very first morning. Filch found them trying to force their way through a door which unluckily turned out to be the entrance to the out-of-bounds corridor on the 3rd floor. He won't believe they were lost, but sure they were trying to break into it on purpose and was threatening to lock them in the dungeons where they were rescued by Professor Quirrell, who was passing. Filch owned a cat called Mrs. Norris, a scrawny, dust-colored creature with bulging lamp-like eyes just like Filch's. She patrolled the corridors alone. Break a rule in front of her, put just one toe out of the line, and she'd whisk off for Filch, who would appear, wheezing 2 seconds later. Filch knew the secret passageways of the school better than anyone, except perhaps the Weasley twins, and could pop up as sullen as any of the ghosts. The students all hated him, and it was the dearest ambition of Maine to give Miss Norris a good kick. Fuck Filch. And then once you managed to find them, there were the lessons themselves. There's a lot more to magic, as Harry quite found out, than waving your wand and saying a few funny words. They had to study the night skies through their telescopes every Wednesday and midnight and learn the names of different stars and the moons of the planets. 3 times a week, they went out to the greenhouses behind the castle to study herbology with a dumpy little witch called Professor Sprout, where they learned how to take care of all the old plants and fungi and found out what they are all used for. Easily the most boring class was History of Magic, which was the only class taught by a ghost. Professor Binns had been very old indeed when he had fallen asleep in front of the staff room fire and got him next morning to teach, leaning his body behind him. Binns droned on and on while they scribbled down names and dates and got Emmerich the Evil and Eric the Oddball to model mixed up. Professor Flitwick, the charms teacher, was a tiny little wizard who had to stand on a pile of books to see over his desk. At the start of the first lesson, he took the register, and when he reached Harry's name, he gave an excited squeak and toppled out of sight. Professor McGonagall was again different. Harry had been quite right to think that she wasn't a teacher too cross. Strict and clever, she gave them a talking to the moment they had sat her down in her first class. Transfiguration is some of the most complex and dangerous magic you will learn at Hogwarts, she said. Anyone messing around in my class will leave and not come back. You have been warned. Then she changed her desk into a pig and back again. They were all very impressed and couldn't wait to get started, but soon realized that they weren't going to be changing the furniture and animals for a very long time. After making a lot of complicated notes, they were each given a match and started trying to turn it into a needle. By the end of the lesson, only Hermione Granger had made any difference to her match. Professor McGonagall assured the class how it had gone silver and pointy and gave Hermione a rare smile. The class everyone had really been looking forward to was Defense Against the Dark Arts, but Quirrell's lessons turned out to be a bit of a joke. His classroom smelled strangely of garlic, which everyone said was to ward off a vampire he met in Romania, and was afraid would come back to get him one of these days. His turban, he told them, had been given to him by an African prince as a thank you for getting rid of a troublesome zombie, but they weren't sure they believed the story. For one thing, when Seamus Finnegan asked eagerly to hear how Quirrell had fought the zombie, Quirrell went pink and started talking about the weather. For another, they had noticed that a funny smell hung around the turban, and the Weasley twins insisted that it had stuff full of garlic as well, so that Quirrell was protected wherever he went. Harry was relieved to find out that he wasn't miles behind everyone else. Lots of people had come from Muggle families and, like him, hadn't had any idea that they were witches and wizards. There was so much to learn that even people like Ron didn't have much of a head start. Friday was an important day for Harry and Ron. They finally managed to find their way down to Grey Hall for breakfast without getting lost once. "What have we got today?" Harry asked Ron as he poured sugar on his porridge. "Double potions for the Slytherins," said Ron. "Snape's head of Slytherin House. They say he always favors them. We'll be able to see if it's true." "Wish McGonagall favored us," said Harry. Professor McGonagall was head of Gryffindor House, but hadn't stopped her giving them a huge pile of homework the day before. Just then, the post arrived. Harry got used to this by now, but I had given him a bit of a shock on the first morning, when about 100 owls had suddenly streamed in the Grey Hall during breakfast, circling the tables till they saw their owners and dropping letters and packages onto their laps. Hedra hadn't brought Harry anything so far. She sometimes flew into nibble his ear and have a bit of toast before going off to sleep in the owlery with the other school owls. This morning, however, she fluttered down between the marmalade and the sugar bowl and dropped a note on Harry's plate. Harry tore it open at once. "Dear Harry," it said in a very untidy scrawl, "I know you get Friday afternoons off, so would you like to come and have a cup of tea with me around 3? I want to hear all about your first week. Send us an answer back with Hagrid." Dude, we love Hagrid. Like Hagrid is like our boy. Like Hagrid is our first like Hagrid like literally like brought us like we love Hagrid. We love Hagrid. Harry borrowed Ron's quill, scribbled "Yes, please. See you later" on the back of the note, and sent Hedwig off again. It was lucky that Harry had tea with Hagrid to look forward to, because the potions lesson turned out to be the worst thing that happened to him so far. Yeah. Who's this, guys? Snape, Snape. Snape, 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 Snape. At the start of a term banquet, Harry had got the idea that Professor Snape disliked him. By the end of the first potions lesson, he knew he'd been wrong. Snape didn't dislike Harry, he hated him. Potions lessons took place down in one of the dungeons. It was colder here than up in the main castle, and would have been quite creepy enough with the pickled animals floating in glass jars all around the walls. Snape, like Flitwick, started the class by taking the register, and like Flitwick, he paused at Harry's name. "Ah, yes," he said softly. "Harry Potter, our new celebrity." Draco Malfoy and his friends Crabbe and Goyle sniggered behind their hands. Snape finished calling the names and looked up at the class. His eyes were black like Hagrid's, but they had none of Hagrid's warmth. They were cold and empty and made you think of dark tunnels. "You are here to learn the subtle science and exact art of potion making," he began. He spoke in barely more than a whisper, but they caught every word. Like Professor McGonagall, Snape had the gift of keeping class silent without effort. "As there is a little full of swan waving here, many of you will hardly believe this is magic. I don't expect you will really understand the beauty of the soft simmering cauldron with its shimmering fumes, the delicate power of liquids that creep around human veins, bewitching the mind, ensnaring the senses. I can teach you how to bottle fame, brew glory, even stop death. If you aren't as big as a bunch of dunderheads as I usually have to teach." Snape can stop death? And he should have just got that potion, bro. Anakin should have got that potion from Snape. More silence followed this little speech. Harry and Ron exchanged looks with raised eyebrows. Hermione Granger was on the edge of her seat and looked desperate to start proving that she wasn't a dunderhead. "Potter," said Snape suddenly, "what would I get if I add powdered root of asphodel to an infusion of wormwood?" Powdered root of what to an infusion of what? Harry glanced at Ron, who looked as stumped as he was. Hermione's hand had shot in the air. "I don't know, sir," said Harry. Snape's lips curled in a sneer. "Tut tut. Fame clearly isn't everything." He ignored Hermione's hand. "Let's try again. Potter, where'd you look if I told you to find me a bazaar?" Bazaar. Hermione stretched her hand as high in the air as it would go without her leaving her seat, but Harry didn't have the faintest idea what bazaar was. He tried not to look at Malfoy, Crabbe, or Goyle, who were shaking with laughter. "I don't know, sir." "Thought you want to open a book before coming, eh, Potter?" Harry forced himself to keep looking straight into his cold eyes. He looked through his books at the Dursleys, but did Snape expect him to remember everything in 1,000 magical herbs and fungi? Snape was still ignoring Hermione's quivering hand. "What is the difference, Potter, between Monkhood and Wolfsbane?" At this, Hermione stood up, her hand stretching towards the dungeon ceiling. "I don't know," said Harry quietly. "I think Hermione does, though. Why don't you try her?" A few people laughed. Harry caught Seamus's eye, and Seamus winked. Snape, however, was not pleased. "Sit down," he snapped at Hermione. "For your information, Potter, Asphodel and Wormwood make a sleeping potion so powerful it is known as the Draught of Living Death. The bazaar is a stone taken from the stomach of a goat and will save you from most potions. As for Mookshut and Wolfsbane, they are the same plant, which also goes by the name of aconite. Well, Why aren't you all copying this down? There was a son rummaging for quills and parchment. Over the noise, Snape said, and a point will be taken from Gryffindor house for your cheek, Potter. I'd be like, what? I'm like, I'll just like, so like you admit that like you're singling me out. Like, where's like Dumbledore to like, no, like they have like a school like assistant principal like come like sit in on a class or whatever. Like, where Dumbledore show like went invisible because he say he can do that. He doesn't need a. Yeah, he said that later on, but I'll be like, see, Dumbledore, like Snape is a total bitch to me. Okay, anyways. Things didn't improve for the Gryffindors as the potion lesson continued. Snape put them all into pairs and set them into mixing a simple potion to cure boils. He swept around in his long black cloak, watching them wade dried nets and crush snake fangs, criticizing almost everyone except Malfoy, whom he seemed to like. He was just telling everyone to look at the perfect way Malfoy had stewed his horned slugs, which clouds of acid green smoke and loud hissing filled the dungeon. Neville had somehow managed to melt Seamus's cauldron into a twisted blob, and their potion was seeping across the stone floor, burning holes into people's shoes. Within seconds, the whole class was staying on their stools while Neville, who had been drenched in the potion when the cauldron collapsed, moaned in pain as angry red boils sprang up all over his arms and legs. "Idiot boy!" snarled Snape, clearing the spilled potion away with one wave of his wand. "I suppose you add the porcupine quills before taking the cauldron out the fire." Neville whimpered as boils started to pop up all over his nose. "Take him to the hospital wing," Snape spat at Seamus. Then he ran on Harry and Ron, who had been working next to Neville. "You, Potter, why don't you tell him not to add the quills?" "Thought I'd make you look good if you got it wrong, did you? There's no point you've lost for Gryffindor." This was so unfair that Harry opened his mouth to argue, but Ron kicked him behind their cauldron. "Don't push it," he muttered. "I've heard Snape can turn very nasty." As they climbed the steps out of the dungeon an hour later, Harry's mind was racing and his spirits were low. He lost 2 points for Gryffindor in his first week. Why did Gryffindor hate him so much? "Cheer up," said Ron. "Snape's always taking points off Fred and George. Can I come and meet Hagrid with you?" At 5 to 3, they left their castle and made their way across the grounds. Hagrid lived in a small wooden house on the edge of the forbidden forest. A crossbow and a pair of whatevers were outside the front door. When Harry knocked, they heard a frantic scrambling from inside and several booming barks. Then Hagrid's voice rang out, saying, "Back, Fang, back!" Hagrid's big, hairy face appeared in the crack as he pulled the door open. "Hang on," he said. "Back, Fang." He let them in, struggling to keep a hold on the collar of an enormous black boarhound. There was only one room inside. Hams and pheasants were hanging from the ceiling. A copper kettle was boiling on the open fire, and in a corner stood a massive bed with a patchwork quilt over it. "Make yourselves at home," said Hagrid, letting go of Fang, who bounced straight at Ron and started licking his ears. Hagrid's house. Hagrid's house, Hagrid's house. Fang was clearly not as fierce as he looked. "This is Ron," Harry told Hagrid, who was boiling water in a large teapot and putting rock cakes on a tool plate. "Another Weasley, eh?" said Hagrid, glancing at Ron's freckles. "I spent half my life chasing your twin brothers away from the forest." The rock cakes almost broke their teeth, but Harry and Ron pretended to be enjoying them as they took Hagrid all about their first lessons. Fang rested his head on Harry's knee and drew it all over his robes. Harry and Ron were delighted to hear Hagrid called Filch "that old git." And as for that cat, Mrs. Norris, I'd like to introduce her to Fang sometime. Do you know, every time I go up to her school, she follows me everywhere? I can't get rid of her. Phyllis puts her up to it. Hagrid, Harry told Hagrid about Snape's lesson. Hagrid, like Ron, told Harry not to worry about it, that Snape liked hardly any of his students. But he seemed to really hate me. Rubbish, said Hagrid. Why would he? Yet Harry couldn't help thinking that Hagrid didn't quite meet his eyes when he said that. Wow. How's your brother Charlie? Hagrid asked Ron. I like him a lot greater with animals. Harry wondered if Hagrid had changed the subject on purpose. When Ron told Hagrid all about Charlie's work with dragons, Harry picked up a piece of paper that was lying on the table under the tea cozy. It was a claim from the Daily Prophet. Gringotts break-in latest. Investigations continue into the break-in at Gringotts at 31 July, widely believed to be the work of a dark wizard or witches are unknown. Gringotts goblins today insisted that nothing had been taken. The vault that was searched had in fact been emptied the same day. But we're not telling you what was in there, so keep your nose out if you know it's good for you, said Gringotts' spokesgoblin this afternoon. Harry remembered Ron telling him on the train that someone had tried to rob Gringotts, but Ron hadn't mentioned the date. Hagrid, said Harry, that Gringotts break-in happened on my birthday. It must have been happening while we were there. There's no doubt about it. Harry definitely didn't meet Harry's eyes this time. He grunted and offered him another rock cake. Harry read this story again. The vault there was searched had in fact been emptied earlier that same day. Hagrid had emptied vault 713. If you could call it empty and taking out that grubby little package. Had that been what the thieves were looking for? Damn, I'd be like, Hagrid, like we and then bro, that's crazy. I'd be like, that's my same shit that Hagrid had. I'd be like, Hagrid, how do you like okay, Hagrid, what was that bag, bro? Like what was in that bag? What was in that bag, Hagrid? As Harry and Ron walked back to the castle, what? They didn't ask him? Dude. As Harry and Ron walked back to the castle for dinner, their pockets weighed down with heavy rocks they'd been too polite to refuse. Harry thought that none of the lessons he had so far had given him as much to think about as tea with Hagrid. Had Harry collected that package just in time? Or was it now? And did Hagrid know something about Snape that he didn't want to tell Harry? What's that? So Snape is a fucking bitch. So Snape is a fucking bitch. So how'd you guys like it? How'd you guys like it? Isn't this book so much fun? We're about halfway. We're halfway done, man. Which one was y'all's favorite chapter? The first one or the second one I read? Getting sorted? Or meeting Snape? Yeah. Sorry, that's great. Sorry, it's great. Sorry, is great. All the homies hate Snape. All the homies hate Snape. woman. Bruh. How Hufflepuff had like 100 people join it. Be like, bruh. The McDonald's of houses. But I think I'm gonna let y'all go. Maybe talk to y'all later. Where the nobodies go? Probably. Yeah, Hufflepuff. Hufflepuff sucks. Nap time. I want to get something to eat. I'm gonna feed myself to survive another day. I got shit to type. No rest for the wicked in DC. Well, this is Ethan signing off. Thank you for joining.